Home Affairs. When choosing one of the following options, please have your student number ready.
For Thorn Amongst the Roses, press 1.
For eviction notice, press 2.
For Lost in Translation, press 3.
For All in Good Sport, press 4.
For The Face of Age, press 5.
For The Other Side of the Coin, press 6.
For Long Talk to Freedom, press 7.
For Out of Sight, Within Our Minds, press 8.
For Wall to Wall, press 9.
For The Underground Files, press 10.
For Womanhood Chronicles, press 11.
If one of these options does not satisfy your need to discuss social, racial, and gender issues on campus, please contact your warden.
You are listening to
Home Affairs
on RMR 89.7 FM.
Stop.
Sometimes I'll take ritalin if I feel like just having a little pick-me-up before I go out.
I was just asking him, was just basically pleading him for it to be handled internally and for the police not to be called.
Home Affairs presents The Underground Files, a look into what Rhodes students are really getting up to.
I suppose that they are in danger the whole time.
Rhodes is meant to be chilled, so chill out a bit, frankly.
Discover The Underground on RMR 89.7 FM. We've all been there.
This is 89.7 FM, RMR.
Welcome to the Underground Files show, which is part of the Home Affairs series. You have been listening to Eviction Notice, which has tapped into the politics of exclusion at Rhodes. You are now on your number one radio station, 89.7 FM, RMR, and I am Masitaba Mbete, your host for the next half an hour. Have you ever wondered how people get access to weed or other illegal substances in residences? What about those who run businesses in res? Do you want to know what their secret is? Well, if you've answered yes to any of these questions, you are definitely on the right show, as we aim to tackle issues linked to illegal activities in residences. We will explore and dig deeper to find what lies beneath the surface. Coming up later on the show are stories involving ritalin, habli, and weed.
Home Affairs presents The Underground Files on RMR 89.7 FM.
In our studio today, we are joined by Dr. Alan Kukaldi from the History Department. Dr. Kukaldi specializes in environmental history and is also the chair of the union. Welcome and thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Kukaldi.
Thanks very much for inviting me to be here today.
Our second guest in studio is Ofenza Malebie, who is the residence councillor in the SRC. Ofenza, thank you and a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The following story on ritalin will examine both the positive and the negative impacts of using this controlled substance in residence.
You feel very energetic. You're able to concentrate for long periods of time. It kind of just wakes you up and makes you focused.
Ritalin, a scheduled drug, is used as a study aid by many students at Rhodes. A legitimate user describes why he is on ritalin.
In university I found it difficult to sit down and concentrate for a long time. I get easily distracted, so I approached my doctor and he asked if I'd ever tried ritalin, and I said yes as a kid. At the moment I'm taking it to study. It's hard to cope with the workload.
So what exactly is ritalin for? General practitioner and clinical psychologist Dr. Berenusko explains.
Ritalin is indicated for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So essentially there are two symptom types that it's indicated for. The attention deficit, in other words, the children or the adults for that matter who are on Ritalin can't selectively pay attention to stimuli. For example, the most common thing is schoolwork or paperwork. And then the second component of the disorder is hyperactivity. Those people have great difficulty sitting still in places where it's appropriate.
However, not everyone uses Ritalin legally. An anonymous student easily acquired Ritalin in his residence when he wanted to study.
At half-year exams last year, I was writing an exam at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I had procrastinated until the night before. And I had never used Ritalin before. Someone in my residence told me that Ritalin will help me work. At 11:30 the night before my exam, I bought some ritalin from a person in my res. I then learnt throughout the night, went to my exam, and got 68 for it.
I prefer not to sell it. I get more out of ritalin when I use it to study. And lots of people do approach me. They just want some ritalin, some friends that want to go out. I'll maybe sell it to them if I have an excess, but usually I prefer not to.
Shockingly, ritalin is currently being sold in residences as a popular recreational drug.
Sometimes I'll take ritalin if I feel like just having a little pick-me-up before I go out. Helps with conversation. It also gives you a bit of energy.
A pill of ritalin taken at, say, 11 o'clock at night can keep one going till 4 in the morning. And I assume it's the same use that it's used for a party. It doesn't actually give one so much a buzz as just keeps one active and interested.
The implications of trading in ritalin are actually more serious than students are aware of.
It's not really a big deal. You're not going to get arrested over having a packet of ritalin on you.
Ritalin's a controlled substance and has to be sold only by a registered pharmacist or a doctor with a dispensing license. Even if you have a surplus, it's still considered to be a criminal offence if you were to sell it to somebody else. It's not a drug to be taken lightly.
So if you've just tuned in, you are on RMR 89.7 FM, and I am Masichaba on the Underground Files show. We have just listened to a story about ritalin, which is a legal drug that aids concentration and is prescribed to people who need it for concentration and learning purposes. Ofense, do you think that a warden or any other person in a leadership position, for that matter, in a residence, should be made aware of a student who uses ritalin, as in the same way that one would be made aware of a student with a serious medical condition?
Well, that's kind of a difficult question because wardens aren't, it's not the same thing as in boarding school where you've got a housemaster who needs to be aware of every single problem that you've got, you know what I mean? So if you're using ritalin for, like, if you've got ADD, if it's genuine use for ritalin, then I don't really think that it's anybody else's business for them to know.
Dr. Kukoldi, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I was just thinking, it helps if the warden has some kind of idea of the full medical history of students in the res. So I'm not saying you should abuse people's privacy. But for instance, my daughter's a diabetic. We made a point of telling the warden when she moved into res that she's a diabetic. These are the kind of things that can go wrong. These are the kind of things that may happen if they go wrong. Ritalin does have side effects as well. It helps if the warden knows that somebody's on Ritalin. And then you also stop rumors. You hear rumors, so-and-so's taking pills. It helps if you know why they're taking the pills.
Yes.
So, yeah, I can see there is also a privacy issue. But, if it's legitimate use, I think it might be in your own best interests if your warden knows.
And how do you feel about the recreational purpose usage of Ritalin? Because we have heard in this package that you do get students who actually are not prescribed Ritalin, yet they purchase it for recreational purposes. What is your take on that, Ofense?
I'm actually quite surprised because it's the first time I hear that people are, selling and dealing in sort of Ritalin or whatever. It's quite a surprising thing because I didn't know. Like we just heard from the doctor that it can keep you awake. It doesn't so much give you a buzz, but so I don't know, maybe for me, I kind of don't see the whole purpose. It's like counterproductive. I'm not going to be getting a buzz from it, then why do you really need it to go out? That's the most surprising thing for me, that people use it as a pick-me-up to go out. It keeps them interested in conversations, and it's a little weird, I think.
Yeah, what worries me is I think it's kind of quite a dangerous drug anyway. I think that it's totally overprescribed in South Africa. If you read the kind of package inserts, which I did before the show just to do my work, there's a whole process that's supposed to go into prescribing Ritalin. The patient's supposed to get counseling. They're supposed to be assessed by a psychologist or some kind of healthcare practitioner besides the doctor. So there's a whole diagnosis that's meant to go into prescribing it. And then once you're on it, you're meant to kind of have ongoing psychological assessment. There's all sorts of, with certain kinds of Ritalin, there's different times you have to take it before or after meals. So there's a whole process and I think in South Africa it's very easy. If you go into schools, any kid that is kind of hyper, maybe they're bored in class, but the thing is, let's get control over them. Let's kind of keep them quiet by giving them Ritalin. I'm not denying that some people really need Ritalin. I taught in a class where there was a kid one day that didn't take his Ritalin, and it kind of freaked me out for the whole day because he was like off the walls. But there were a whole lot of kids in my class that were on Ritalin that I didn't think should be on Ritalin. They were kind of bright kids who maybe were finding my teaching boring. So I think it's kind of quite dangerous. It should be more controlled than it is in the first place. Second place, it's a dangerous drug. I mean, there have been moves to have it banned. Unfortunately, the biggest move came from the Scientologists, which meant that it was kind of poo-pooed and seen as ridiculous. Okay, so, without entering into the merits of that, it's dangerous. It's especially not meant to be crushed or injected.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's the quickest way to get high on it or to get a rush from it is to either snort it or inject it.
Okay, so basically we need to keep tabs on it and to make sure that it doesn't go out of control, especially for the people that are not prescribed for it. Thank you. For next up, we take a look into some controversial entrepreneurship at Rhodes. Let's tap into the Hubley lifestyle in residence.
Rhodes might be the university where leaders learn, but it might also be where entrepreneurs begin to exhibit their business skills. Although starting a business in residence isn't exactly allowed, Rhodes has seen some talented entrepreneurs starting theirs in the privacy of their own residence rooms. Courtney is a first-year student who has started her own business selling Hubley at Rhodes through her res room window. She tells us a bit about her business.
I started at the beginning of the year. I've got a partner in my business, and her and I came up with the idea in Joburg because we could source things a lot cheaper than anywhere else, and there's a bit of extra money. And I've got a few regular customers that usually come through there, and they're people that live close, or they want to order less than 30 Rand. And then they knock on the window or they SMS me coming through.
Rhodes University requires the permission of the warden to be asked before any trade begins in residence. But Courtney's smooth operating business system has managed to get around this.
Well, I didn't ask permission as such. They all knew about it. I actually have a poster in the dining hall on my wall. There's one outside my window because, sometimes people come around to res to buy. They're very, very lax. I've got people on Housecom that buy from me, people within my res. So it's very open and people know about it. But for the most part, it's harmless. I think the big thing that it's the defining difference is the fact that I deliver to other places. Because how my business works is I deliver your Hubley for free. So while the stock sits in my room, it's not like people having to come here to buy, and it's not as serious as, let's say, cigarettes or alcohol. So I think that's where the fine line comes in. It's basically just making sure that, we're not on anyone else's toes. So, with the warden and that sort of thing, I cannot have too many people knocking on my window at night. I mean, I do not encourage that at all because, then it is 11 o'clock and I've got my neighbour sitting there and, all it takes is her to complain once and they'll pull the plug.
However, balancing a business with your studies can be daunting. Courtney said she had to learn this the hard way.
The one thing that I've learned is most of the deliveries come in the evening. All this work, and then I've got someone saying, hi, I need this and this and this to wherever. But now I've, reshuffled. The work gets done in the morning and then more work, this work in the evening. I've actually gone to bed early so I could do my assignment in the morning. So that evening I would be able to do more deliveries. And then I've got someone knocking on my window at 11:30 saying, please, please, please.
Despite the dedication a business in residence requires, Courtney has managed to make a success of herself, earning quite a bit of profit from selling Hubley in residence.
Most of it goes saving. Every now and then I'll treat myself. But the other thing is because the business is still new, we basically paying up capital. If you're willing to put in the hours, there's a lot of profit to be made, and I think someone could sustain themselves here at Rhodes.
Home Affairs presents the Underground Files on RMR 89.7 FM.